I felt things very deeply as a child and was always very attracted to hearing other people's stories.
Hello, everyone. Elle Ballard is here today on the Empowered Global Women in Business podcast with my guest, Dr. Laura Ellick. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we jump into the conversation, I'm happy to introduce Dr. Laura first. Dr. Laura Ellick is a licensed psychologist in New York, Florida, and Virginia. She also holds a PsyPact license, which allows her to practice telepsychology in over 40 states. She currently works with individuals, couples, and families, both virtually and in person in Florida. Her specialties include eating disorders, addictions, and working with those with chronic medical conditions, including cancer and autoimmune disorders. Her passion for public speaking and educating others about psychology has led to growing social media presence on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. She's the author of the books on Total Wellness for Mummies and Wisdom from the Universe. Her book chapter, Narcissist, Gaslighters, Toxic Relationships, oh my, appears in the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. Her podcast, Slightly Sane, thank you, is available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Love to ask this question. It's always interesting for me how people start with their passions. How did this whole journey start, this work?
I think that's a great question. I think, there are some characteristics or some traits that we have that are just inborn, right? And so I was one of those people who it was inborn in me to care. I have been one of those people who have been labeled too sensitive, which personally I think is a superpower. I felt things very deeply as a child and was always very attracted to hearing other people's stories, usually of children. And I would watch those after school specials or read those books about troubled children. And I would just think, it doesn't have to be this way. And so originally what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a teacher. I thought that would be the best way to have an impact on the younger generation. And then as I got older and got more and more involved in my studies, I realized that, you can get well at any age. It doesn't, we would like to target the young kids, right, to prevent people from suffering. But even people who have given up after 10 years, 5 years, 15 years of struggles, you can turn things around at any moment. And that to me was a challenge, but also gave me some hope that, yeah, we have people around here who are hurting, and maybe I can just help a little bit. And that sort of changed my whole life, thinking that one person can have an impact on another, and that has that whole ripple effect.
In building this business, and I love how it started early. It's been a growing journey and everything, and with your amazing books that I've shared here. What are some of the lessons that you have learned in your work in this particular field?
I think one of the things that's incredibly important is being open-minded. I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting to go into business for myself. I had thought, well, maybe I'll just be a therapist and see some patients, part-time and then enjoy the rest of my life. And I just got so into it and so loved it that, as soon as I got my license, I opened my own business the day after I got my license. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I knew that I was going to do something. And I think the number one thing I would recommend to people is be flexible and be open-minded. If I had gone in with, I'm going to do this and then this and then this, I never would have had the opportunities that I've had to be on this podcast, to do social media. Social media didn't even exist when I was going to school and starting my business. So I think number one, I think that's one of the biggest lessons. Be open to every opportunity that comes. And number two, listen to your gut. My gut has never led me in the wrong direction. I can walk into a room and I know right away if I should stay there or if I should walk out. And I think as women, we're often told that our gut instinct is doesn't mean anything. And I would challenge that, because anytime I've gone against my gut, it has not gone well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the answers in the gut. We just spoke about it yesterday, actually. The and I was posting how, sometimes when we're looking for answers, just asking ourselves, our body knows. It's all on, on the intuitive level. We know that. And I was sharing, how I feel if I'm working on something, or if I have a question, I can ask my body, and then the answer is in the way I feel about it. And it's so
Yes.
amazing, right?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for the work you're doing. All this and working with through your books, through your experience and journey, and working with all the people and making the world a better place. So thank you for the work you're doing. We are on the Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. And being a woman in business, I always love to ask this question: how this journey of being in business for yourself and navigating it for yourself, but also building it on your own terms, how has this journey been for you?
Sometimes very lonely,
Yeah,
sometimes filled with connection. And what I really like is when you mention, the global reach. The way we are now, and no one could have anticipated this prior to email and social media, is, you can reach out to somebody in another country in seconds. And so, as you saw, I double majored in Spanish and psychology. And so I've taken
yeah,
the opportunity to learn from people around the globe. So I've done some community service work in Ecuador and lived with a family. I lived with a family in Cuernavaca so I could study in Mexico. And having
wow,
those experiences gave me an opportunity to see what it's like for women all over. And
yeah,
so, as a woman in business, I have an advantage here in America. I just do. And we talk a lot about our disadvantages. It can be lonely, and I never expected to go into business for myself. So I was navigating a territory that very few women had done. And look, I'm by no means the first female president or anything like that. But anytime you're trying to build a business and you don't really have too many role models, it can be very isolating. My mom
yeah,
did not run her own business. I don't know anybody else who runs her own business. So making those connections and now being able to connect with people all over the world allows us to maybe build a network of knowledge and support and connection, because I think it's the connection that women thrive on, and we do best in that. And whether it's a gender difference, the way we're raised, whatever it happens to be, I say embrace it, because it
yeah.
works and it makes the business world much less lonely.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that answer, and I love seeing so many women, stepping up into opening their businesses, side businesses, hybrid or full time, whatever that is. And you're right. The women are so given. We create as we open these businesses, as we step into the business world, we create these communities around us, right? We
That's
connect
right.
with each other, and it's yeah, it's just this heart driven approach to things where and then as we are doing it, as one of us, each one of us is doing it, we all doing it together, bring each other up. And I love that. I was attending the event yesterday where I connected to so many beautiful women in business as well, and it's just it's a great space to be in and learn from each other.
And collaborate. If we collaborate, we are so much more powerful than any one
Absolutely.
of us alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree with that too. Yeah. Now, I know we will be sharing links with our listeners for you on how to get to know you, how to find you. Dr. Laura, if you could share how our listeners can find you here as well.
Feel free to reach out to me on my website, which is www.lauraellick.com. That is the best way to reach me. Also, you can look for me on social media, Laura Ellick or Laura Ellick Real. I think I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I do answer all of my own messages because I do think that that is really important. I like the idea of having, again, that connection. And if someone is taking the time to reach out to me, I'm going to get back to them personally.
Yeah.
And I think obviously as a business owner, if you get that big, it makes it really hard to do. But I still find that I have that down home feel of I want to answer the phone. I want to talk to someone who's calling me. So yeah, definitely reach out. You will hear back from me.
And your books, how can we get your books?
You can get the books directly through me. Shoot me a text or an email, or you can check on Amazon.com.
Now, I am excited to move us to the next section of our podcast conversation, which will be a rapid fire questions. And I only have 5 questions to go through. If you're ready.
Yeah, I'm scared, but let's go.
My first question is, your favorite book name is?
I have to go with the entire series of Little House on the Prairie books.
Ooh, yeah.
I have
Cool.
to go. I am a history buff. That was my first foray into learning about how other women lived when they were
Mm,
young. And I followed her story religiously, reading. I've read those books probably 20, 30 times. I just found them so engaging, so interesting, just to be able to see how people were able to live without technology. They lived
yeah,
off the land. They were pioneers, which women in business are pioneers. We are still
yeah.
pioneers, and how strong we all are. And I think those books are good role models for everybody, not just women. But that was my first foray into, gosh, women are great writers. They do important things. And what an interesting time that we lived through.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Love that. Okay, my second question is, beach or mountains?
Well, I live near the beach. And so I have to say, the beach has always been my big place to go for safety. I love the sounds of the waves, but the mountains have been calling me recently. So I think I
Mm.
might be listening to my gut and maybe taking some trips out to the mountains. Maybe, just my intuition is saying there might be something out there that I need to see.
Yeah,
So I'm going to go
yeah.
50-50 on that one.
Okay, awesome. Your favorite international destination to visit?
London.
Mm.
London or Barcelona. They were both
Oh,
amazing. One of the things that
yeah,
I really loved about Barcelona was just the people are so fun. So fun, so friendly, so laid back. The food is phenomenal. The
yeah.
weather is great. The culture is amazing. I have to get back there. I can't say enough good things about it.
Oh, I love Barcelona as well, and I love this the combination of water and mountains. Speaking
Yes.
about right, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's my favorite as well. Okay, winter, summer or winter?
Definitely summer. Always been a warm weather person. I don't like the cold in
Yeah,
my bones.
me
I'm sitting
too.
sitting in my house and I have a sweater on. So
Okay, and the final question is, things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
I've discovered, contrary to popular belief, what I thought about myself all along is I am definitely not a fear-based person. I am a risk taker, which I never really considered myself to be a risk taker until I started looking back on all of the things that I've done. And I'm like, girl, you take risks. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, you do things. I had never thought of myself that way. And once I started looking at things, I'm like, I have to redefine how I've seen myself. I always viewed myself as being more shy, but I put myself out there. And so now I have
yeah.
to view myself in a totally different way.
Isn't that interesting? When we look at ourselves and we realize, oh, I'm actually this, which I thought I was never this before. I can definitely relate on some things. Or when people give me or tell me things, right? I'm like, oh, interesting. I never thought about, myself like that, right?
Right,
Um,
right. I think sometimes we're so busy in our everyday lives,
yeah,
just going through everyday life, that we don't have the time to reflect. And so
yeah,
this was something that hit me like a year or so ago. And I'm like, I never thought about it that way, but it's true.
yeah. It's true. Thank you so much for playing. This is always fun, and I love learning about people on a on a different level, right? That other than
Mhm.
business. So I love uh, I love this little playtime. But as we are finishing our conversation today, is there anything you wanted to add?
I think that people have a tendency to underestimate themselves. And you really can start your life over at any moment, no matter how tough it's been. It's just making the decision that you're going to leave that in the past and start fresh and find your tribe. It's hard to do, but doing it with support just makes it so much easier.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast,
Thank you
Dr.
so
Laura.
much.
Very nice to meet you.
Same here.